Lesson 3 for July 13 through to 19, Sabbath, a Day of Freedom, read by Dr. Percy Harold. Monday, July 15, 2 Reasons for Sabbath. Question. Read Exodus chapter 20 verses 8 to 11 and Deuteronomy 5 verses 12 through to 15. How do these two versions of the fourth commandment complement each other? Exodus chapter 20, beginning at verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. 4. In 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. And Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning at verse 12, Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Remembering is an important part of the relationship that God seeks to re-establish with his people, a relationship centered on the fact that God is our Creator and Redeemer. Both roles appear in the two versions of the fourth commandment and are thus linked closely with Sabbath and its practice. Coming out of a land dominated by so many false gods, the Israelites needed to be reminded of the true God's role as the Creator. The Sabbath was a crucial way to do that, made all the more significant in the context of the weekly cycle of providing extra manna on Friday, a powerful example of his creative power. In the Exodus 20 version of the fourth commandment, God as our Creator is revealed most clearly. By contrast, their rescue, redemption, and salvation is the focus of the fourth commandment in Deuteronomy 5. This was a story that the Israelites were to retell regularly. They could reconnect with it especially every Sabbath. Their first story was one of actual physical rescue from slavery in Egypt. But as their understanding of God and his salvation grew, Sabbath also would become a weekly symbol and celebration of their spiritual salvation. Both of these motivations for Sabbath were about restoring the relationship between God and his people. Ezekiel 20 verse 12 reads, I gave them my Sabbaths as a sign between us, so they would know that I, the Lord, made them holy. And, as we've seen, this was never about this group of people only. On the foundation of this relationship, they were to establish a new kind of society, one that was kind to outsiders and a blessing to the wider world. Deuteronomy 5:15 in the NIV reads, Therefore the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. By keeping the Sabbath as a way of remembering and celebrating both our creation and redemption, we can continue to grow in our relationship, not only with the Lord, but with those around us. God is gracious to us. Therefore, we need to be gracious to others. So to finish today, in what ways should Sabbath keeping make us kinder, better, more caring, and compassionate people? You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School Bible Study Guide by Dr. Percy Harold from Queensland, Australia. This service is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and Christian Services for the Blind. Remember, God is always faithful.